We've got Brian Thomas, who's a fund manager at Laurium Capital. Thank you very much for your time, Brian. And let's start with the overall market movements. As I said, it wasn't a great start to the week. We saw one of the biggest laggards on the local market being the industrials. Talk us through some of the other catalysts that may have informed today's movements.
I think the biggest move on the downside probably came from the Naspers process complex. They've had a very, very strong start to the year, and you had in Hong Kong this morning, Tencent pulled back. No real major news to speak of from a Tencent perspective, and that had a knock-on effect into both Naspers and process. So those probably did the biggest damage to the market today.
What about the rand, Brian? It continues to weaken quite significantly against the US dollar after having a really positive run. Is this a dollar weakness story, or are there some local factors that are dragging the local currency?
In general, we don't think that there are huge local factors that impact the rand. That's often just what we would refer to as a risk currency. So when there's risk on, people are prepared to take more risk, the rand appreciates, and when they're prepared to take less risk, it depreciates. That's generally what happens with the rand. But I think in this instance, there is a bit of the impact of load shedding and the power issues that we're having in the country impacting the rand. I had a quick look at how it's ranking this year against the rest of the emerging market peers, and it is ranking second last year to date behind Argentina. And I think that quite a bit of that is probably to do with the power situation in the country, and I guess you referred to it in your earlier report.
Let's get into some company updates now. Let's speak about Pepkor. Their trading statement out today. Very interesting one. Seeing some really positive moves in Pep and the home division, but they seem to be struggling quite a bit with Ackermans, and they actually said in the outlook that they're going to focus quite a bit on changing their offering to perhaps compete a little better in the market. What did you make of Pepkor's update?
Yeah, so at the headline level, with revenue up 6.5% for the group, it looks like a decent set of results. But what we tend to do is look at like-for-like sales. So you try and unpack what happened in the same store year on year or period on period. And this period is a 3-month period to the end of December. And as you rightly say, Ackermans a little bit concerning, down 8%. They do acknowledge that there was sort of fashion missteps that they made within that Ackermans business, which they can potentially correct over time. But one of the key observations, now that we've had a number of the retailers come through with their results, is it appears that those that are catering to the lower end of the market are being impacted more than those that cater to the top end. So Pep under pressure, Mr. Price under pressure, but the likes of Foschini and Truworths actually both did okay. And what's very interesting, as you say, in the Pep numbers is the phenomenal growth of Pep Home, up nearly 23%. It's become there's been a bit of a cult following of the good deals that people are able to get at Pep Home, and that has continued. So a bit of a mixed bag, but maybe a little bit softer than we were anticipating out of Pepkor.
Yeah, and just one final one on that one, Pepkor, they did mention that the Techie Town brand not doing too great. There's a huge amount of competition when it comes to footwear, so that also seeing a bit of a struggle in the period. But just in terms of a medium to long-term outlook, overall, generally, are you comfortable with the kind of growth that they have reported in those, like the Techie Town, like I say, that they showed a bit of struggle with the competition?
Yeah, their specialty brands have been fine. The concern, as I say, is Ackermans at this point. They've got a very strong management team. They should be able to turn Ackermans around. And Pepkor, as they said in January, actually started to fire. Remember, within Pep, it's a very big back-to-school business, and that started to kick in January. Sales up 5%. So I think they'll be able to turn it around. I don't think it's a major train smash.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for those insights. It's Brian Thomas, fund manager at Laurium Capital, joining us to speak about the markets day and, of course, some company updates out today.